For this mid-month wisdom, we are going to take a look at a graph by Two Sides Dime called the 9 to 5 Millionaire. Now, listen, if you are tuning in on the podcast and not YouTube, it is okay. You don't need to see the graph. I'm going to walk us through it. We're also going to add two steps to this. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So those who can see, we're going to start at the top with stage one. Stage one says income equals salary divided out by asset one and expenses. Let me explain for a second. When I started, I had no money, no network, and no experience. Luckily, I did have a day job. I did have a 9 to 5. And what I did with my 9 to 5 was I took every dollar that I had and I bought assets with it. Really that simple. I had my expenses, I had my assets. Sure, I had a 401k. Might as well take advantage of free money. Other than that, I didn't buy any stocks, bonds, anything like that. Single family home. Nope. What I did was I took my money, all that was left over after expenses, and I piled that together and bought my first asset. As we can see in this graph here, what it's trying to explain is that's exactly what you need to do. Because at stage two, your income comes from salary and from asset one. Now, in stage two, your salary still goes towards your expenses, but your income from asset one plus the remainder of your salary can then go to fund asset two. In stage three, your salary basically exclusively goes to buying asset number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Whereas eventually your assets will pay for all your expenses. I did this very thing. What I realized was in order to really build wealth, it wasn't happening at my day job. It just wasn't, realistically speaking. That being said, I also had bills to pay. Now, I realized I could control a couple things, one of which being what I actually spent my money on. We are not going to cover that today, but I bet you if you thought about it, there are probably some things that you don't need to be spending your money on. Whereas if you took that money and invested it in something that would pay you a return, you would be a whole lot faster to an early retirement or chasing your dream full time, yada, yada, yada. We're not going to belabor that point here. This graphic, whatever infographic, whatever you want to call it, is brilliant for a lot of reasons because it mapped out exactly what I did to get full time, which was prove to myself I could do it, prove to myself I could make money. And then when it came to my third asset, you guys have heard the story if you've listened to my podcast or watched my YouTube before. Ian and I, my business partner, we quit our jobs. We moved into a mobile home park and we made the asset our salary. So I really love visuals like this, but I also want to say that there's a beyond. There's a stage 4 and a stage 5. You could probably guess what stage 4 is. Stage 4 is you quit your job. And this salary, if you will now come from all your assets. That's exactly what Ian and I did. We quit our jobs. We paid ourselves the property manager salary for the mobile home park we moved into, and we kept buying. So in other words, we were our own property managers. That way we could pay the expenses, and then every dollar above that we made, refinances, sales of equity, the works, went right into the next asset. So stage 4 is really going full time. Stage 4 is when your assets themselves pay for all of your expenses and you don't need your W-2 job anymore. In fact, you don't want it. In fact, when you look at how much you're making at your W-2 job versus being full-time chasing your real estate dreams, it won't be worth it. Even if you're making 100,000 or more per year, the freedom and autonomy you will achieve by being your own boss, owning your own real estate will far surpass probably about anything anyone could ever pay you unless you're a professional athlete, like a ball player or something. That would actually be really cool. There's some jobs out there that are way cool that'll pay you an absurd amount of money. But for the most of us tuning into this, truth is the quicker you can get to the stage 4 where your salary is completely replaced by your asset income. So all of your future acquisitions as well as your current expenses are gobbled up. You're good. Stage 5 is the fun part because stage 5 is when your LP investments take over all of your expenses and some. Let me explain. As of this recording, I've closed on 27 mobile home parks. I now am actually actively placing money into LP. Why? Because I realize it's a good diversification play. I realize as a GP, you're never really passive. Yeah, you make money when you sleep, yada, yada, yada. You're not truly passive until you are an LP. And the beautiful thing about being an LP is that the money just shows up. So as long as you bet on the right horse, eventually your assets can be truly passive. Now, you're not going to multiply your money as an LP like you would as a GP. That's why my focus in stage 5 has been to place enough of my own cash appropriately on horses that I want to bet on operators I want to bet on that will cover my expenses so that I can focus on my GP stuff where that's where my true wealth is born from. I have a lot of friends who've done very, very well that are basically professional full-time placers of LP capital for themselves. So not fund managers, but they act as their own fund managers. And what that allows them to do is have a ton of income, diversify out their asset classes, and not really have to worry about anything other than vetting operators and placing their money appropriately. I'm telling you, stage 5 is truly the dream. Because if you're like me and you want to continue building something awesome, you don't want to have to worry about is X, Y, or Z property going to be profitable this month? I'm working my tail off to make sure it's profitable so I can eat and feed my family. If you have an LP that is successfully delivering you your returns, you don't have to worry about eating. If you live a reasonably modest lifestyle, like I, for the most part, think I do, what that allows you to do is focus on growing whatever you are a GP in: mobile home parks, tech, plumbing, whatever your company is. So I absolutely love this graphic. It is a wonderful explanation visually of how someone can keep a day job and build quite a portfolio that ends up allowing you to continue to go to work if you want to. But if you want to leave, eventually you can say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And then my 2 extra stages there just explain to everybody tuning in how I'm thinking about my future, because one day I may wake up and go, I don't want to work anymore at all. And if I have properly placed LP money, which is not a bad thing, I will have income still coming in so I can keep the lights on and keep food on the table. Thank you everyone for tuning in.